Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, let's just dive right into this. We're taking a really comprehensive look at how Curaçao is completely reinventing itself. When we think of this gorgeous Caribbean island, our minds usually go straight to the colorful Dutch architecture and those crystal clear waters. But beneath that tranquil surface, wow, Curaçao is actually undergoing this radical transformation right now across its political, economic, and environmental landscapes. We're going to walk through this metamorphosis at a nice measured pace, exploring exactly how a nation sheds its historical skin to build a remarkably modern, highly regulated future.
We'll explore this journey through 5 main pillars. First up, an island in transition. Then, the 2025 political earthquake. Next is the 2026 iGaming overhaul, followed by adapting to Tier 1 status. And finally, building a sustainable future.
Section 1. An island in transition.
To understand exactly where Curaçao is headed, we really have to anchor ourselves in its recent history. You just can't comprehend the destination without grasping the turbulence of the journey. And wow, we are looking at an island that is decisively pivoting away from its colonial and heavy industry past. Just think about the sheer volume of change here in just over a decade. It's honestly remarkable. We go from achieving constitutional autonomy back in 2010 to the massive economic shock of the Isola refinery closing in 2018. Then came the historic 2022 apology from the Dutch government regarding its history of slavery, which profoundly shifted cultural dialogues. And now, we're seeing unprecedented political and regulatory reforms in 2025 and 2026. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's establish exactly what 10-10-10 means. It's literally the foundational moment for modern Curaçao. On October 10, 2010, the island dissolved its ties to the Netherlands Antilles and became a constituent, autonomous country within the Kingdom of the Netherlands. This was huge. It gave the island the ultimate power and, of course, the responsibility to reshape its own internal destiny, from its laws to its economy and governance.
Section 2. The 2025 political earthquake.
So, with autonomy firmly in place, the island recently experienced something completely unprecedented, an event that brought absolute stability to a parliament that had historically been pretty fractured. In the March 2025 general election, the Movement for the Future of Curaçao, or the MFK party, secured 55.22% of the popular vote. In a political landscape that's defined by proportional representation, crossing that 50% threshold is exceptionally rare. It provided a truly historic mandate.
By capturing 13 out of 21 parliamentary seats, the MFK effectively neutralized the chronic cabinet instability that usually plagues coalition governments in the region. For the very first time in the island's history, a single political party obtained an absolute legislative majority. This essentially gave them the undeniable power to push through sweeping reforms without getting bogged down in endless coalition negotiations.
The really crucial point here is how they're actually using this power. Historically, the MFK had pushed for complete independence from the Kingdom of the Netherlands, but under their current leadership, they've made this really pragmatic shift. Independence no, renegotiate COHO yes. Basically, their stance is now all about renegotiating administrative agreements to ensure financial autonomy, rather than seeking a full structural separation. They're prioritizing domestic economic stability over ideological independence, which is a massive pivot.
Section 3. The 2026 iGaming overhaul.
With that unprecedented political stability secured, the government aggressively turned its attention to cleaning up its biggest economic engine, international gaming. For years, Curaçao operated on a really cheap, fast master and sub-license model. It created a bit of a Wild West reputation where intermediaries essentially held all the power. Well, the new 2026 National Ordinance on Games of Chance, which is known as the LOK framework, totally obliterates that legacy model. It demands direct licenses issued by the Curaçao Gaming Authority, ensuring strict, unyielding oversight of every single operator.
By shedding its old reputation, Curaçao is fighting tooth and nail to become a Tier 1 jurisdiction. In the highly complex world of international finance and gaming, Tier 1 translates pretty simply to transparent, safe, and heavily regulated. It means global banks actually trust you, and bad actors actively avoid you. To achieve this coveted Tier 1 status, the new rules are incredibly stringent. Companies can no longer just be a shell corporation on paper. They actually have to prove they have what's called substance on the island. We're talking renting real offices, hiring real local staff, and enforcing rigorous anti-money laundering and Know Your Customer or KYC protocols. It's a complete philosophical shift from a cheap formality to genuine, sustained compliance.
Section 4. Adapting to Tier 1 status.
Setting these new rules in Parliament is one thing, right? But how are global companies practically adapting their technology and finances to comply with this new reality? Well, the technical leap required is massive. It's no longer just about filing a bunch of paperwork. Operators must physically house highly secure backup servers right there on the island. They have to guarantee advanced DDoS protection, secure player balances, and maintain an enterprise-grade uptime of 99.993%. This literally forces operators to invest heavily in Curaçao's local technological infrastructure.
Because of these strict requirements, the old days of simply paying a fee to slap a symbolic orange digital seal on a website are entirely over. The Curaçao Gaming Authority now holds real, formidable enforcement powers. They can investigate, they can issue massive fines, and they can instantly revoke licenses for non-compliance. No more cutting corners.
To put this transition into financial perspective, operators must now budget a minimum estimated baseline of €55,000 just for their licensing, local office, and operational setup. This financial barrier to entry proves that Curaçao is definitely no longer a market for quick, cheap setups. It's exclusively for serious, well-funded, and fully compliant businesses.
Section 5. Building a sustainable future.
Now, a strong, regulated economy ultimately requires a healthy, resilient island to actually thrive. Don't leave your waste here. This anonymous piece of Caribbean graffiti, which was found during a regional environmental study, perfectly captures the profound cultural shift needed today. Island nations across the Caribbean are facing a severe, existential crisis with plastic waste, and Curaçao is taking it head-on. They are actively tackling this crisis by striving for a circular economy. Instead of the old linear model where items are used once and just thrown into a landfill, a circular economy reuses and recycles materials continuously. This is an absolutely crucial, urgent pivot, especially when you consider that global plastic production is expected to double or even triple by the year 2050.
Local initiatives like the organization Green Phoenix show exactly how this works in practice. They collect common plastics, water bottles and yogurt containers, right outside the capital of Willemstad. Then, they process these materials at local facilities, transforming waste into brand new products, and vitally, generating green jobs for local facility workers and artisans. It quite literally turns an environmental hazard into a localized economic asset. And this really completes the metamorphosis. For a century, Curaçao relied heavily on the massive Isla oil refinery. But since its closure in 2018, the island hasn't just gone out looking for a new industrial polluter. Instead, it has consciously embraced sustainable tourism, ecological responsibility, and highly regulated digital economies.
So as Curaçao sheds its old models to build a highly regulated, sustainable future, what can other global nations learn from this radical metamorphosis? We've seen an island completely transform its politics, clean up its biggest industries, and fight for its environment, all in just a few short years. Thank you so much for joining this explainer. Keep questioning how the systems around you are evolving and consider what it truly takes to modernize a nation.